Smoke rises from the great hall's hearth, curling upward in pale spirals like an offering to unseen gods, weaving through the carved beams as though seeking the heavens themselves. The walls, blackened with centuries of fire and feast, seem to listen and absorb the rhythm of unseen labor. Outside, the wind presses against the stone, but inside, the warmth of flames bends the air in slow, wavering waves smelling of ash and spiced fat, the scent clinging to linen veils and rough woolen skirts. Women move silently across rush-strewn floors, their bare feet brushing over the straw with practiced ease, carrying baskets heavy with vegetables, salted meats, and sweetmeats yet to be shaped. Each step is a prayer of service, each gesture an unacknowledged devotion to the lords and ladies who will never know the hands that nourish them. A young girl bends over a copper pot so vast it swallows her small arms, stirring thick venison broth infused with bitter herbs. Her fingers, red and chapped from water and fire, press into the wood of the spoon, guiding the meat in circles, as though coaxing it into tenderness. Beside her, another lifts a tray of trencher bread, edges soaked in grease from the roasting boar, its aroma mingling with cloves and wine. Her arms ache under the weight. Her back bows in silent obedience to the rhythm of the kitchen, a rhythm older than the stones beneath her knees. The hall above roars with merriment. Goblets clatter, voices sing, and laughter ripples through gilded corridors. Yet below, the women's world is one of murmured commands, the hiss of dripping fat, the sharp crack of wood split for flame, and the ever-present scent of sweat, smoke, and flour. No noble eyes witness the precise dance of hands that salt, slice, and knead. Every roasted swan, every honeyed tart, every gilded pastry owes itself to their tireless devotion. Heat burns their faces, smoke curls into their hair, and blisters bloom across their palms like flowers forced to bloom in stone. Their voices are quieted by duty, swallowed in the din of celebration. But the feast's splendor is the legacy of their endurance. In the corner, a woman pauses to wipe ash from her brow, glancing at a small wooden crucifix dangling from the wall, whispering a prayer in Latin that no ear but her own will ever hear. When the heavy door opens to deliver another dish, the scent of roasted swan, spiced wine, and honeyed pies escapes into the revelry, teasing noses that will never taste the labor behind it. The women step back, shadowed architects of joy they will never partake in, leaving behind only echoes, the soft clatter of plates, the hum of conversation, the invisible rhythm of toil that makes celebration possible. One girl, her skirt dusted with flour, pauses at a window, watching sunlight gleam on the hall above, her eyes tracing the gilded goblets as though imagining herself there. Yet she turns, resuming her place among pots and flames, knowing that her triumph lies in sustenance, in the fleeting perfection of a feast unspoiled. In this hidden world, the true artistry is not in gilded halls or jesters' laughter, but in hands that endure, hearts that remain unseen, in the sacred rhythm of daily labor. Every slice of bread, every glazed pastry, every tender roast, is a memory of care, devotion, and quiet strength. Though their names will vanish with the rushes, swept from the floor, the taste, warmth, and wonder of their craft linger a silent testament to women whose labor makes joy possible, even if they will never sit to savor it themselves. By candlelight, long before the first pale streaks of dawn touched the sky, the Manor's women gathered in the cold stone-walled kitchen, sleeves rolled to the elbows, hands red and raw from the chill. Their breaths rose in small clouds, mingling with the thin smoke of tallow candles and the faint scent of spilled ale on rush-strewn floors. Grinding stones groaned beneath the weight of grain, each rotation sending clouds of dust into the air like a ghostly fog, settling upon wooden tables, on forearms, and into the hair tied back with faded ribbons. Fingers, numb from cold and repeated effort, pressed and folded dough against the oak. Joints aching with the rhythm of a task that would not pause, a ritual older than the manor itself, each movement both punishment and prayer. Outside, cocks crowed to announce the day, their calls echoing across frost-fingered thatched roofs, while icicles clung to eaves like crystal daggers. But inside the kitchen's heart, flames bloomed beneath blackened cauldrons, licking iron sides with warmth that stung the skin as much as it soothed, sending scents of roasting meat curling into every corner. Women plucked geese with swift, precise hands, feathers drifting downward like snow upon the damp rushes, already sticky with ale spilled during early preparations. A child crouched by the hearth, turning a spit taller than herself, sparks leaping toward her wide, determined eyes. Her small hands gripping the iron with trembling strength. The heat and danger were part of the lesson, endurance, craft, silent devotion. Her apprenticeship to a life that demanded both resilience and invisibility. Above, the hall would soon blaze with laughter and clatter. Noble voices would boast of hunts, victories, and family legacies, praising the food without ever glimpsing the lives it required. Yet here in the kitchen, the women's bodies, bent with quiet labor, each heartbeat measured, each movement stitched into the fabric of bread, broth, and roast. The toil was physical and sacred, a language of survival and artistry, whispered through the clatter of knives, and the splash of water, and the steady, heavy turning of dough. Every fold of pastry, every knead of grain, was an unspoken testament to endurance, to the invisible lives that sustained the visible pleasures above. The bell tolled finally, announcing the banquet, calling all to their appointed places. The hall would shine in gilded splendor, candles reflecting in polished chalices, tables heavy with roasted meats, spiced wine, and gilded pastries. Yet the women who had conjured this marvel would remain in shadows, shoulders bent, faces flushed with heat and effort, their own hunger and fatigue hidden beneath layers of linen and wool. Their eyes, often weary but watchful, might catch a fleeting glimpse of color on the plates above, a scent carried down by servants, a sparkle of silverware catching the light, but they would not sit. Their labor had crafted the joy, yet joy was not theirs to claim. As the first sounds of revelry echoed through the open doors, the child by the spit paused, wiping sweat and soot from her brow, and gazed at the sun rising slowly above frost-laden fields. In that moment, the kitchen itself seemed to breathe with her, alive with smoke, warmth, and the weight of unseen work. Every loaf, every steaming cauldron, every carefully roasted bird was an offering of endurance and care, an invisible architecture of joy and sustenance. Although the high tables would host laughter, toasts, and acclaim, the kitchen's quiet orchestra persisted, sacred testament to the women who bent to labor so that celebration could breathe freely. In the dim glow of torches, the kitchen breathes like a living furnace, walls sweating with heat and moisture as if they, too, were alive to the labor pressed against them. Smoke curls along the low, blackened beams, carrying the scent of roasting meat, sizzling fat, and herbs crushed too early, spilling their pungent perfume into the heavy air. Women pressed through narrow passages, baskets laden with onions, leeks, and fragrant herbs bound with rough twine balanced on their hips and elbows. Every step is careful, measured, a silent negotiation with the uneven flagstones beneath their feet, already slick with water, spilled ale, and the stray feathers of plucked fowl. The kitchen, in its intimate chaos, is a world apart from the gilded hall above, yet it holds its own kind of music. The hiss of dripping lard, the crack of splitting firewood, the slap of dough kneaded and turned, and the metallic flash of knives slicing flesh from bone. A maiden hums softly near a cauldron, her voice fragile but determined, a lullaby against the roar of labor. Sparks leap from the fire and catch in her hair, stinging her eyes, yet she hums on, coaxing her hands into steadiness. Fishmongers' deliveries pile upon the sideboard, their contents reeking of salt and brine, while clove, saffron, cinnamon, treasures from distant shores, cling to the air, filling the kitchen with an aroma too exquisite for the women to taste. The feast to come will boast spiced pies and gilded tarts, the honey and sugar a delight beyond their reach. Their fingers, blistered from knives, cracked from heat and blackened with soot, create indulgence that will pass their lips only in fleeting glances, in a stolen crust, or a whispered crumb taken when no eye watches. Above, laughter already stirs through the hall. Men boast of battles fought and victories earned, their voices full of pride, oblivious to the unending toil below. But the women's battles are quieter, harsher, waged against smoke, hunger, fatigue, and the relentless tyranny of time. They carry the weight of expectation in their bones and the heat of the hearth in their blood, bending over cauldrons and chopping blocks until their joints ache, until their veils singed at the edges from sparks or steam. Each movement is deliberate. A pluck here, a slice there, a fold of dough, a measure of spice. This is their domain, their arena of mastery, where skill and patience weave together into sustenance, survival, and subtle artistry. As the first bell calls the banquet to order, the hall above will erupt with gilded chalices, roasted stags, and laughter ringing off tapestries and polished walls. Yet the kitchen's work persists, echoing in empty spaces as if the walls themselves remember each hand that labored in the shadows. A girl pauses at a doorway, wiping sweat and smoke from her brow, peering for a fleeting glimpse of candlelight on silverware, and returns to her station. Her eyes betray longing, a quiet ache for joy denied, yet her hands move again with steady devotion. In every loaf, every stew, every glimmering pie, the hidden women leave memory and care imprinted, invisible threads binding the unseen and the celebrated. By the time the first courses are served, the women have vanished to corners and passageways, their work complete, yet their reward unseen. Still their presence lingers, in the warmth of freshly baked bread, in the sheen of roasted meats, in the perfume of spiced wine. They are the invisible orchestrators, the silent heartbeat beneath the pageantry. Carrying the feast into life, while remaining spectators of its grandeur, their sacrifices, small yet infinite, echo quietly, a testament to endurance, mastery, and the quiet majesty of labor rendered in love and necessity. The hall waited in expectant splendor, draped with banners stitched in brilliant threads, and illuminated by the warm flicker of countless candles. The polished boards gleamed under the soft light, and the scent of wax mingled with flowers plucked from distant gardens. Above, the nobles would soon gather, voices ready to rise in laughter and song, to toast victories both real and imagined. Yet beneath this gilded anticipation, in the stone belly of the manor, the kitchen roared like a storm, alive with heat, smoke, and tireless motion. Cauldrons gurgled with marrow-rich stews, the aroma heavy with herbs and slow-cooked meat, while spits groaned under the weight of whole boars turning steadily over open flame, their fat dripping in a hiss that sounded like serpents writhing in fire. Women moved with quiet precision, hands that never rested, carrying the weight of the feast in every gesture. Fingers braided pastries into intricate crowns, pressing almond paste into gilded shapes that mirrored the opulence above, while pestles worn smooth by centuries of grinding, crushed fragrant herbs into powders that would flavor sauces, breads, and stews. The rhythm of labor was a language of its own, punctuated by the occasional flicker of laughter, a thin, fleeting sound that vanished beneath the steward's sharp commands, swallowed by the roar of boiling liquids, the hiss of frying fat, and the steady turn of the spits. In corners, girls scrubbed cauldrons and polished wooden trenchers until their hands burned from hot water and the coarse bristles of brushes. Yet the gleam of their work would be noticed only in passing, never named aloud. One girl, her face smudged with ash and sweat, paused to lean against the cold stone wall, her chest heaving with exhaustion. Her pulse raced from the relentless heat and endless motion, yet her eyes, glimmering with a fleeting dream, wandered toward the hall above. She imagined honeyed mead trickling down her tongue, the music of minstrels filling the vaulted space, the swirl of skirts and laughter brushing against her own imagined joy. For a heartbeat, she allowed herself a vision of stepping through the doors and claiming a place at the celebration, of tasting what she had wrought with her own hands. But the vision dissolved with the echo of a command, and she straightened her shoulders, lifting the trencher once more, her arms moving with the practiced strength born of repeated toil. As the trumpet blared for the Lord's entrance, the hall erupted in gleaming light, polished silver, and rich fabrics, yet the unseen orchestra of women sustained the spectacle. Each spice measured, each roast basted, each loaf folded and scored, was part of a delicate choreography of endurance. Their labor, silent and tireless, was the music beneath the feast, its rhythm hidden in the sizzle of pans, the scrape of knives, and the warmth radiating from the ovens. They ensured harmony, even as their presence remained uncelebrated, their joy deferred, their exhaustion unnoticed. Even as the nobles feasted, the women lingered in shadows, hands still warm from toil, foreheads damp with sweat, eyes reflecting the glow of candlelight and hearth. Their labor created beauty, sustenance, and ritual, and yet it remained invisible to the revelers above. In the silent corners of the kitchen, amidst the steam and the smell of roasted meats, They became the true guardians of the feast's grace. It's a quiet testament to endurance, devotion, and the subtle majesty of work rendered with care. In their silence, the hall's music found its unseen conductor, and the festival's joy, though claimed by others, was quietly theirs. The corridors hummed with footsteps, each echo a faint drumbeat marking the night of the feast as it unfolded. From the buttery to the pantry, the air grew, heavy with scents that promised both indulgence and ritual, the sharp sweetness of nutmeg, the pungent tang of garlic, the acrid smoke of charred flesh, and the dark richness of sweet wine being uncorked for noble lips. These aromas drifted past closed doors and down shadowed hallways, spilling into the hearts of the women whose labor had conjured them, whose hands, backs, and lungs bore the cost of such opulence. In the scullery, girls bent over basins, scrubbing trenchers until cold water bit at raw, chapped skin. Their knuckles whitened from the grip, arms ached from repetitive motion. The heat of nearby ovens only deepened their fatigue. Steam rose from scalding water, clouding their vision in thin, ephemeral curtains. Yet they worked without complaint, the rhythm of washing, scrubbing, and rinsing as familiar as a hymn. Every corner of the kitchen whispered of sacrifice, fingers blistered from knives, backs bent beneath the weight of sacks of flour, voices silenced by duty and expectation. Here, in these narrow spaces, the true festival was wrought, not in laughter or wine, but in endurance, care, and the quiet artistry of labor. In the bakehouse, women hauled loaves from the oven's maw, the steam rising in blinding clouds that stung eyes and burned lungs. The crusts golden and fragrant, warm with promise, yet almost never theirs to taste. They shaped the bread with precision, scored it with care, brushed it with egg wash that glinted like sunlight on stone, and stacked it in baskets that would later grace the high tables. The rhythmic clatter of wooden paddles against hot bricks, the hiss of burning flour, and the occasional groan of overburdened ovens formed a hidden music, a testament to skill and devotion that no minstrel would ever sing. Above, the feast dazzled with jesters, fiddles, and polished silver. The hall erupted with the noise of revelry, voices rich with pride and mirth, nobles drinking to victories, marriages, and fortunes that had nothing to do with the women who made the spectacle possible. Yet without their hidden toil, without hands that tended every cauldron, kneaded every loaf, and seasoned every dish, the hall's magnificence would have crumbled into emptiness. These women, bent and tireless, were the unseen pillars of abundance, the quiet architects of celebration. When the final dish was carried forth and nobles toasted to glory, the women slipped away into the darkness, leaving behind only the faint aroma of smoke, bread, and roasted meats. They bore no praise, no triumph, only the weight of their own invisibility. Their toil lingered not in memory, but in the empty plates, the lingering fragrance of spices, and the warmth that radiated from hearths long after they had departed. And yet, within this silence, there was a kind of quiet power, a sacred proof that joy, beauty, and sustenance could exist because of their endurance. In their absence, the feast continued. But in their presence, though unseen, the very heart of the celebration had been made.